All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 TV show in the world. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Death Mask by Jim Butcher. This is book number book number 5 in his Harry Dresden series. However, this is about the 11th Harry Dresden book I've reviewed. I'm not even reading them in order of any kind. So just know that if you go to my Jim Butcher Harry Dresden playlist of book reviews, it's a jumble of all of them. Anyway, let's talk about this book. The cover. The cover, he's got the same cover artist pretty much for most of his books. And they're all designed really well. And I've got the entire Harry Dresden collection down here. So let's take it. Well, I've got every Jim Butcher book right down there. Not sure why they're on the bottom shelf, but that's where they're at. Anyway. Not only that, but before we get to the review, we've talked about the covers. The covers are always really dope. They just do a great job, and they all look nice on the shelf together. Before we get any further, though, I always show off my signed books. I've got a huge signed book collection. Jim Butcher. I've met Jim Butcher several occasions at different book signings. Got my books signed by him. Also, I've done a writing advice panel with Jim Butcher at Comic-Con. If you want to see that, I filmed it. It's on my channel. Just type in Brian Lee Durfee, Jim Butcher, and the video will come up. The writing advice panel we did at Comic-Con was called Fantasy Tropes. So if you want to watch me and Jim Butcher and a couple of other authors, like Larry Correia and Brian McClellan was on that panel. Oh, so it was an all-star fantasy panel. You can watch that. Just type in the things. I'm not going to leave a link. I might leave a link. I might actually leave a link for that one. Probably not. You can discover it. Type in my name, Jim Butcher's name, Fantasy Tropes Comic-Con panel. The video will probably come up. If it doesn't, this is not the book I'm reviewing. I'm still holding it up, though. Put that back. Okay. Let's catch our breath and get on with the review finally. So, for those of you that don't know who Harry Dresden is, we'll just give a brief explanation. He's a wizard investigator. In other words, he doesn't investigate wizards. Well, sometimes he does, and vampires and werewolves and other strange things. He's an investigator in Chicago who investigates the supernatural. And that's what basically the whole book. I mean, there's like 20 some odd books in the series, and it's one adventure after the next, sort of set up like those old Raymond Chandler-esque noir crime novels where, you just, the investigator, the PI is just sitting in his office and the pretty lady comes in and gives him a thing to investigate, and then he goes off. That's kind of the way all of these books start, with the exception of this one. This one actually starts with Harry Dresden on a TV show, sort of a talk show, sort of like a Maury Povich or Jerry Springer-esque talk show, where he's got to earn some money, and the talk show's paying him more than the private investigating business. So he goes on the talk show with another guy named Mortimer, and they talk about ESP, the supernatural, whether it's real or not. People in the crowd are laughing at them because they think it's all BS. And Harry doesn't really care because he's like, well, I know it's all real. I know there's supernatural ghouls and goblins and things out there that I've got to investigate and fight. I understand that most people just think it's all nonsense, but that's okay. I'm still earning money from the TV show. Well, then all of a sudden things go haywire, ass over teapot. The next thing he knows, he's in a duel with the Duke of the Red Court, who was one of the main vampire guys, and it's like kind of like a duel to the death to decide who's more powerful, the vampires or the wizards, because Harry Dresden's a wizard. And anyway, this is one of my favorite books in the series, Death Mask. It's a breezy, fast read. if you've just been reading a ton of dense, heavy fantasy books like Wheel of Time or Steven Erikson or something, and you just want to sit on the porch for an afternoon and read just something that's easy, lighthearted, and doesn't take itself too seriously, but yet is full of a lot of action and adventure, this is one of the more action-packed books in the Harry Dresden series. Like I said, it starts off with the TV show, The Duel. And then it moves on from there. You've got hitmen chasing Harry through the city of Chicago. You've got the missing shroud of Turin, which is probably why it's called Death Mask. If you know what that is, it's very important to different factions of supernatural villains. It's got headless corpses, and we got to figure out why the corpses are headless and who made them headless. We've got his ex-girlfriend shows up with a new boyfriend, if that isn't the worst. And then at the end, well, throughout the book, we get to meet the cult of the Blackened Denarius, which are just some, I mean, and then there's so many just action-packed, thrilling scenes in this book with a lot of different factions of the supernatural that Harry Dresden fights throughout the 20-book series. I think this is probably where the first 4 Harry Dresden books were pretty fucking cool. This Death Masks really amps up the coolness quite a bit. I actually really enjoyed this, and that's what I did. I just sat on my porch on a nice warm fall day and just read it. It's a 400-page book. Took me about 3 hours to read. I read pretty fast. I read about 100 pages an hour. But this, like I said, this is a fast read, so you can read it faster than normal books. I give this a solid 9.5 out of 10. It is one of my favorite Dresden books so far, and the whole series is fucking dope, so you should probably get it and enjoy it like I do. And that's the review, folks.